All right, perfect. So this will be kickstarting the super brief kind of town hall update for November 18th. And what we'll most likely do, we'll keep these about once or twice a month, just to kind of update the community, update, where things are, how things are developing, covering anything over the current markets, if there's anything going on that, we want to kind of clarify as well. So just kind of providing the community a little more clarity. We're going to do these in a bit more kind of unstructured format. We're going to just kind of go in and answer any questions there are, and just kind of update with where we are currently with any, development updates or, community updates and things like that too. So I have Adam on the call today, and, what we'll do first is we'll just kind of go over the market updates first. Where is the market today? Does that affect us at all? I've seen a few questions there, just kind of pop up here and there. So to kind of kickstart it, it's been about a couple weeks now since the FTX debacle, I guess you could say. And, fortunately for us, we haven't had any assets, on FTX or anything like that. So to be honest, it hasn't really affected us at all. And as far as everything else too, the minute we had the Theo launch, we converted everything over to USD. We had a feeling that the markets were probably going to be pretty volatile. So we've been completely sheltered from that. We've been watching in the sidelines, of course, but we haven't been affected by it by any means. So as far as entire ecosystem, I guess, Adam, I guess I'm kind of curious in your thoughts. How do you feel that this, recent debacle, possibly even affects stacks in the next, 6 to 12 months?
I mean, I think it's actually a positive thing for stacks because, a lot of these centralized entities are, the contagion here wipe a lot of people out, and I don't even really think we know the full extent of who FTX kind of had their hooks in. There's so many centralized entities connected counterparties. So I think that is still going to be unwinding. It's already devastating, but I think a lot of users, we've seen a lot of users already wash out of crypto completely. So I don't think I don't think Web3 really recovers until there is more transparency. There is more user-friendly applications, and I think the days are gone of like all these different blockchains. Like I think people are going to kind of come back to what they know, what they trust: Bitcoin, Ethereum, and I think that really provides a great opportunity for stacks. If a lot of people believe that Bitcoin is true sound money, that it's going to be here for the long haul. I believe that, and if that's true, that makes me very bullish on stacks as kind of the leading entity for building and providing solutions for Bitcoin. So I think it's positive for stacks. And one more thing I'd note is that Mani being brilliant, he raised $150 million through trust machines right at the top of the bull market. So from everything I see, it heads down, they're building, and I think stacks could emerge as a pretty powerful force in the next bull. I don't know what your thoughts are, but I feel pretty good about it.
Absolutely. That's kind of my thesis as well. And that's definitely a big part of why we are taking the long, difficult route of building on two chains, and instead of just one. It's kind of taking a bet on Ethereum, which I think nobody can really dispute. And then of course on, stacks as well. So pretty much regardless of the ecosystem, regardless of what happens is, our benefit would be that, we are more based in the real world with actual real world and hard assets. So for us, if stacks at the end of the day, 6 months, 12 months, a couple of years from now doesn't end up working or panning out, ideally we're in a position that we're not too heavily affected, either way. So it's a way of kind of, betting on the ecosystem on the stacks ecosystem without fully depending on it, which is how we're kind of positioning, REAT on that end.
Yeah, and I think like in this next cycle, for any Web3 project to survive, people are not going to get tricked again. Like there's going to have to be clear utility, not some BS fake token. It's got to have some type of real world utility that's solving a problem and earning some type of revenue. That's why I think you and me and many others are so bullish on having real world assets tied to it. But one more thing, just on stacks, I think like maybe mid-December they said they're rolling out stacks. What's the newest version? 2.1.
2.1, I believe. Yeah,
I think but that's gonna do a lot of good things. They're gonna launch subnets. scalability solutions, which will increase the throughput and just be another layer to Stacks that will allow a lot more users to be onboarded. I think that's going to be really big for the community. And part of the reason I don't think they have been advertised, like people always criticize them, they don't do any business development. They just can't. The chain can't handle it right now. So I just really think that they're trying to get this in place, put the scalability solutions in, and then once that, make sure that that works. And then I think hopefully the marketing machine comes on and, people can start using it. But I'm pretty bullish for that. And yeah, I think that's also going to benefit REAT and some of the things we're doing.
Absolutely. Yeah, 100% agree. And I feel like right now for anyone watching, the bear market is where the projects that are going to be the ones that are interesting to watch do emerge in the next, bull cycle, which is probably going to be, 2024, 2025, when ironically, I think 2024 is when Bitcoin actually halves. And that's also a good chance that the Fed will actually start dropping rates as well. So those two things might start being synonymous at the same time. So that could be pretty beneficial. And that's kind of the year that I've always had my eye on building REAT and building Theo was 2024 and 2025. I think those will be interesting years for sure.
Yeah, I guess the last thing to just really quickly add is if Stacks can truly solve the peg in, peg out problem,
yeah.
I think that's when it reaches the next level. So if you can take your Bitcoin, lock it up in a non-custodial fashion, right, and then on the Stacks chain to release, I think they were calling it SBTC.
Yeah.
Then that really unlocks the utility. I mean, if they can do that, I'm not going to say it's going to overtake Ethereum, but if they do that, we're going to be in the right place. So really excited to see what happens there.
Absolutely, 100%. And so now to kind of leeway it into where REAT is and where we kind of see things going. Right now in the bear markets, as you mentioned too, a lot of these projects are in a heavy experimental phase. They're kind of building right now, and that's exactly where we are with REAT as well. So we're ideally targeting a December launch here, for REAT. And really, for anybody new kind of watching in, REAT is a experimental kind of platform, I guess you could say, where we're really trying to create a system where there's a direct relationship between tenants and the people who are going onto these platforms. So there's a direct relationship, and they're kind of linked synonymously, between each other, where there's not too many middlemen or middle parties. And of course, right now we're in heavy experiment kind of phase where there's a lot of things that need to be tested in the markets. We need to do, kind of more customer feedback as we launch and kind of get tenants feedback. And there's a lot of experimentation here. So everything that we talk about today, nothing is really meant to be investment advice or financial advice or anything like that. You can kind of see all this as a very early experiment of, real estate on chain and also, trying to provide some sort of automated solutions to the industry where blockchain is just kind of cutting out those intermediaries. And of course, with anything, especially with real assets, there's always going to be a management piece of it, no matter what. But we're trying to, ideally with REAT, the goal here is to streamline the process of efficiency down to where consumers are saving money, and also the people on the protocol itself are also, they have a more efficient platform to go to that isn't encumbered by a bunch of fees that you see with a traditional kind of, GPLP position sometimes. So as far as REAT, where we are with everything, we should be ideally targeting this launch here in December, and of course, we might need more leeway depending on what the devs say. We'll never rush anything, as always. It's always going to just be making sure that it's done with quality. So we seem to still be on track for December. And right now we're wrapping up the front end, and we should have the test net here for a couple of week kind of trial range, hopefully here launching in December. So hopefully pretty soon on that end. And as far as the target launch, we're still targeting mid-December, potentially up to mid-January, depending on what devs say. We'll continue kind of deferring it on their end as far as that goes. And as far as the capabilities of REAT, we're going to be experimenting a lot of different things. You guys will probably see a bunch of different pivots here and there, just depending on what consumers say, depending on what the community says, what the token's doing. So you guys will probably see pivots left and right. Just kind of depending on what the market's doing. But just to kind of give you an idea of some future kind of implementations, and I'll have some screenshots that we'll kind of post this with as well. But in the future, we kind of see where people will be able to start their own mining pools. So right now, a lot of people are familiar with Thoepetra and Stacks, where it's a more kind of centralized mining pool. But with ours, people will be able to open and close their own mining pools, charge fees, pretty much at will. So that'll be a feature of a REAT that we'll have. And in the very beginning, it'll be just purely us doing it, kind of managing it, making sure that it's streamlined. But ideally, Q2, Q3, we'll have it to the point where anybody can actually open their own mining pool completely trustlessly, and the middle party doesn't have to be trusted. They can just go out and advertise what their pool is and collect fees off of it. So that'll be kind of an interesting experiment that we'll have on REAT as well. That'll be kind of fun to test on that end. But as far as everything, December, that's kind of the ideal target. Worst case scenario, January for the REAT development side. We'll have some screenshots that we'll kind of post here, what it might kind of look like on that end. But as far as everything, location wise, we've been kind of going back and forth on that a little bit. Our last team meeting, we were kind of debating, internally where should we go, and California is definitely pricey. I think the two options are probably going to be most likely Florida or somewhere in the Midwest. I'm personally leaning heavily towards Florida. Prices are very similar to where they are in the Midwest, but there's a huge population growth. Politically, you see a lot of political cohesion there in Florida, where you don't see a lot in a lot of other states where there's still a lot of debate. It seems like Florida is just kind of going one way, so that creates a much more kind of stable background for real estate. It'll always be in demand from a vacation rental standpoint. It's more fun for the community. So Florida is kind of the area that we're kind of targeting on that end. As far as on T-Home, our private corporation side, we will be in different various areas depending on the market is. But from the REIT side, what you'll see is most likely Midwest or Florida will be kind of the two main focus points on that end. And then as far as everything, to kind of wrap it up, we'll keep these pretty short, pretty lighthearted, nothing too kind of structured. But as far as everything else, we were kind of talking as far as any Theons, if you guys hear of any deals coming up, maybe you're in Florida, even if you're from the Midwest, if you're talking to a buddy, maybe they're thinking about selling an investment property they had. Anybody and everybody, if you guys hear any deals ever coming up, always feel free to send them our way. If we ever end up locking anything down, we could always pay a finder's fee of some sort and, kind of figure something else on there. So always keep an eye out, guys. If you guys ever see anything that you think we might find interesting, or you just hear of anything, it doesn't hurt to at least send it over. We're always keeping our eyes out. So that's another way of Theons being able to kind of maybe be able to kind of contribute, from on that end as well. Adam, is there anything that you wanted to potentially kind of add to that point?
Yeah, no, I was just in the past, a lot of people have asked like, how can they help? And really, there hasn't been anything at that point. So I would say right now, as Mal, I'll just reiterate that we're always looking for deals. We have REAT and T-Homes, and they're different geographic locations. But again, a good deal is a good deal. So that would be the biggest help right now, and appreciate any input and any referrals. But yeah, if you want to connect offline, please just feel free to DM me, Mel, Kyle, or anybody in the core team. Happy to kind of help you, give you some feedback on what to look for when you're looking for a deal. But would be grateful for that. And no, I think that's it, Mel. Good recap. I guess one question is, in terms of REAT, for when they are able to mine. I had a question the other day. Someone was asking, will everybody have to go through our front end? Because you're saying they'll be able to set up their own pool. Will it go through that? Is everything going to have to go through our front end, even if they're setting up their own pool?
Yeah, so the front end is going to be easiest access point for everyone. Of course, if you want the absolute easiest, is just going into Theo. But if you want from the REAT standpoint, you can just go into the front end. But of course, you could always go through the back end if you're technically capable enough. It's completely permissionless. So you don't necessarily even have to use our front end if you don't want to and you're technically capable. But the front end is going to be the easiest point for probably most people. But of course, if you're a developer or, you're just kind of curious on how things are operating, you could always participate, worldwide without our permission. You don't have to use our front end by any means.
Yeah. Cool.
Perfect, guys. Well, yeah, like I mentioned, we're going to keep these pretty short, 15, 20 minutes twice a week. You'll notice these are going to be pretty loose. You know, I was just talking to Adam, you know, right before, as far as the structure on these, you know, none of this is investment advice. None of this is meant to be an investment pitch or anything like that. It's just a lighthearted way of kind of updating the community. So you'll notice these, sometimes we'll hop on, sometimes it might sound like a convo, sometimes it might be more structured, but we're not really going in and, you know, doing an investor update or anything like that. It's just simply just kind of updating the community on an open source project as far as just where we are with everything and how things are kind of developing along. So ideally, like I said, you know, once or twice a week, we'll kind of release these and keep you guys updated on the REAT side, on the nonprofit side, and on the T-Home side as well. So cool, guys. Appreciate it. Thank you guys for your time, and on to the next one.
See you guys.